And we're going to start. So today is October 21st. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Trevor Beck. I'm with our technology service department. And if you have any questions or anything like that, by all means, feel free to contact us. We are more than happy through the help center. You can fill out a form. You can use live chat to talk to us. But in the technology drop-in sessions, what we typically do is I'll do a show and tell for about 10, 15 minutes on some new tech. And then after that, it's open up for any questions. So by all means, if you have any, just stick around and we'll get to them. So I want to start off with some new functions that's coming to Google Calendar. Now, it's not here yet. I have another account, but it should be here within a matter of days. And what it is very similar to what we do in Microsoft Teams. So am I sharing yet? I didn't share my screen, so this will help if I do that. So give me a second. There we go. So in Microsoft Teams, one of the things I really love about Teams is that when I create a event or appointment, whatever you want to call it, I can create notes to go along with that event so that down the road, I can come back to that event, that appointment. I can look at the notes that I took during that time. I can look at the transcripts. Everything's kind of in one place. I don't have to go looking for it in different locations. And Teams is really, really awesome for that kind of stuff. I've talked about it a number of times, but if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to go over some of the advantages of it. But it allows you to go back in time and see what's going on. Google is starting to roll out a function very similar. So I'm going to go over into my calendar here. This isn't my McEwen calendar. Like I said, this is a different one. It will be coming fairly soon. But I go under more options, and there's a new link here that says create meeting notes. So basically, it's going to create a Google Doc and link to it right here within the piece. So your first tip is give your title here the proper name you're going to use. So meet regarding puppies. Don't ask me, I'm on a puppy mode for a while. So normally I like to go in and put in my short agenda. So in here, and whatever that happens to be. And so that way, when I'm having a meeting with Google Meets, it shows up it's easy to pull that up. But I also want to create meeting notes. So I'm going to create this, and notice here it says notes-meeting regarding puppy. And if I go and click on it again, oh, come on. Actually, sorry, let me just save this first, because that's the other step. I'll save it, and I'll go back in. There's my meeting notes, and when I open it up, there is a note. And notice it's got the date that the meeting's supposed to be taking place, the title in there. If I actually had invited a bunch of people to that meeting, they would have been listed in the attendees, which is kind of not the right word because it should be invitees, but you can go in and it'll give you the full list, and you just take out who's not attending and set it up. And there you go. You've got a template that's really easy to find. You can customize it, do whatever you want, share it later. You should be able to move it anywhere. Hopefully it doesn't break if you move it into a shared drive. That's the only time that Google will sometimes redo the URL if you go from my drive to a shared drive. So just keep that in mind. But the nice thing about it is that when you go into that appointment, you can find that link there. Now, this is something that Google has done. I've actually manually done this for years. So I would go into my folder, wherever it's going to be, create my agenda, and then I would use this link here to link to that agenda. So that way, it's doing the same thing. It's just that Google says, okay, I'm going to create it for you. I'm going to now put it somewhere and with this kind of layout. It will just throw it at the top level of your drive. So it's under my drive. So you're going to have to go and move it somewhere. So I'm just going to click on this, go away, click on this. Let me just go a bit bigger so you can see it. There we are. This folder here, the folder means to move. And so you can see right now that it's in my drive. And here's a trick I've shown other people. If this was, let's say, in 4 or 5 folders deep, I can actually open up whatever folder I'm at by clicking on this. So it's going to actually open the parent folder. So anytime you've got a file that's buried like 14 levels deep, you can easily open it up just by clicking that. Otherwise, if I need to move it, I can just go into here and just move it to whatever folder location that I want to. A quick, a good tip is if you use favorites or the star here for folders, no matter how deep they are, they will show up under starred. So if I'm working on a project, I will star that folder so that it's always quickly accessible, even though the folder live within 10 deep folder. Just makes it easier for me to find it. And then when I'm done with that project, I just check the star, and then I'm back to just having a shorter list for favorites. So that's the calendar piece that hopefully should be coming out within the next week. Now, one of the cool features that has come out recently from Apple is FaceTime. So this is part of 15 iOS 15. So most new machines can do it. So I'm just going to do a quick screen share here from my phone. And let me just get it set up again. So what I'm actually doing, and this is kind of cool, you're seeing me on my desktop computer. There's my phone. I've actually joined this meeting with my phone as an additional item. So I can show you two things at the same time. I don't get cut off. And what I'm going to do right now is show you my phone. And it's the first time I've done it this way. So hopefully the recording of this, the archived recording, picks up on it. But here we go. So there it is there. So now you should be able to see my screen. So let's start off here. If you go into FaceTime, you can still go and create new FaceTime if you see off to the right there, but you can also create a link. One of the nice things about FaceTime now is that if I create a FaceTime link, or if I do a FaceTime call, I will get a link that I can send to non-Apple users. In the past, FaceTime would only work with Apple users. Now it will work with Android devices, it will work on Chromebooks, any browser-based device will be able to join in with a FaceTime call. And that's kind of fun. On the left here, though, on my link there, it says create a link. And this is great when I want to set up a link that maybe I'm going to use over and over and over. So I'm just going to tap on create link. And notice it comes up and it says, well, how are you going to share it? So there's a bunch of different ways to share it. But what's really important is right under where it says FaceTime link, it says add name. This is great when you want to have something that you're going to use over and over. So I'm just going to get, because otherwise everything's just by default called FaceTime link. So in here, I'm just going to call it my Alberta family. Let's call it that. So I can now just scroll down a little farther and I'll just hit copy. So now I've got a link that I can now use and paste into a calendar invitation or whatever and send it out to everyone. And then everyone can join using the FaceTime software. I also have it listed there. So when I'm ready to hit start, I can go ahead and hit start and it'll join in automatically. So that's doing it through FaceTime. Another fun function, whoops, where'd it go? Get me into here. Another fun function is when you go into a calendar, you can add a FaceTime link. So this is only going to work with the Apple Calendar software. Okay, so the Apple Calendar app. I suspect that, you know, in the next couple of weeks when they update the OS for the Apple computers, laptops and stuff, this will be added there as well. But I'm going to go hit plus. And at the top, I can put in my title. So I'm just going to do family meet. And I can go in and make that a repeating every Thursday, you know, once a month or something like that. But right underneath it, it says location or video call. And when I click on video call, it says, what are your options? Well, right now, FaceTime is the only one I have. So I click on that. So it has already added a FaceTime link to that. So now I can go ahead and send that out to everyone. They've got that link. So I don't have to use that first link that I did. But if down the road, I decided just to do a quick meeting, say, I just want to get everyone's opinion on something, I can go into FaceTime, grab that link I already created called My Alberta Family and send it out to everyone as a reminder and say, hey, let's start this or bookmark this. And then whenever we need to meet, we click on that. But this now gets added to the calendar. It gets that links get added and it's available for everything, right? Again, whether it's Outlook, Google Calendar, Yahoo, whatever, there's a link in there to get a FaceTime video call started. Any questions on that? No. Okay. I should have asked how many people are using iOS devices. I'll send a meeting, no, form, which is called a survey. I'll send a survey out at some point. Oh, let me turn off that thing. So hopefully I'm back to screen sharing. So I have to turn my screen sharing back on from my other device here. Stop sharing, share back from here. And we should be back to sharing my desktop. And if you can't see it, please let me know. Ooh, good. Set recovery contact. So if you happen to, for whatever reason, get locked out of your computer or your phone or your computer on your Apple device, Usually you can log into another device and then reset the password and get that to help. What they've added is a recovery contact. So I basically have set up my wife so that if I lose my phone and I need to log into a brand new phone that I buy or something like that, or I've tried the password too many times and it's gone and locked me out, I can then also set up a recovery contact. So a message gets sent to my wife and she basically saying, hey, it looks like Trevor's locked himself out. Is this really him? Are you good with letting him have access? And then basically they say, yes, we can do that. So that's where that'll come from. So I'm not going to go through it. There's a link there with a document that goes through, tells you how to set up your recovery, how to invite someone to be your recovery contact, how to let them go through and become available. Calendar Insights. Again, Google Calendar today. We'll get to the Microsoft stuff in a bit. There's a new piece here called Insights, and basically it's giving me this breakdown here. We have something very similar in Microsoft. I think it's called Microsoft. Nope, brain locked. Nope, train went off the track. Couldn't hold that thought. So anyways, it's something similar. And so like once a week or a couple times a week, you'll get this breakdown of how much time did you spend on meetings, how much time were you in a video call, that kind of stuff. And here we can see stuff, dates and stuff here. Students will probably get more use out of it than we will, because as a staff member, we're of course using Outlook, but students will be able to look at that and get an idea of where they're spending time and what's available to them and stuff like that. Whether they need it or not, I don't know, but it's there. Microsoft Teams has some new functionality, I believe. If you look at the three dots, you should be able to see, and this has been kind of appearing and disappearing, but I now get something called gallery at the top. So right now, when I'm doing and it's a little different now because I'm video sharing or sharing my screen, but for you guys, what'll happen is the default might be gallery at the top, which basically puts all the videos, if we all had our videos on, at the top. You turn that off, then you're getting probably what you should be getting now, which is everything off to the right with my big head up in the top corner, or whoever's speaking and presenting, they're going to be highlighted in the top there. So that's a new function that's coming, that's out there now. I actually quite like it. Puts the stuff off to the side. I don't like looking at the bottom all the time. And it also gives me more space when someone's sharing the screen for me to enlarge that to see what everyone's talking about when they're screen sharing. And when you do that, if you've got all the names and stuff off to the side, I can select the focus, and the focus won't show right now because I'm recording. But for you guys, if you wanted, if I'm screen sharing, you can go focus, and that'll get rid of all the videos. Just focus on whatever's being on this main screen. There's also for audio, if you're having problems, which we've had happen at time, is this function here, call me. And I think this is only available to us because we have the phone tied into the system. But I've been in meetings where someone's like, they've got really bad internet and they can't hear them, they break up. They can go call me, and Microsoft will call them on their other line, which is the phone line, and it should be a better quality call. Or it should be able to give them through their mobile device, give them a better quality call. So that's Teams stuff. Last thing we'll talk about is Microsoft. Microsoft Word 100 was a session that ran yesterday, I think. So you'll see if you look through the schedule of upcoming training, we have a number of stuff being done by Microsoft experts. And these are people from Microsoft that I've coordinated with that are coming online, and they're hosting their own training sessions. So Excel 100 was running this morning. I'll get the archive for that. There's a link for the Microsoft 100. You know what? I watched most of it, and even I learned some new stuff. So I really recommend take a look at that. The beauty of it, because I've recorded it and put it up into stream, is you can play it at double speed, or you can jump from one section to another. But I mean, I learned some stuff as well. I really recommend you take a look at it. And here's the things that I learned that I'm going to share today. So when I'm on home here, there's a new thing here called Editor. I think we've talked about it in the past, but it's being updated all the time. Before, Editor was only available on the web. Now it's available on the desktop apps as well. But basically, it acts like a copyright editor who's going to go through and go, okay, I'm going to look at your spelling. I'm going to look at the grammar you're using. I'm going to look at see if is this clear enough, like what age group are you picking for and how that works out. And it goes through and gives you all these different stats. So I can look at my spelling and says, hey, you know what? Packing. So packing's not really a word. You might want to use this word instead. So I can click on that and then change that word to packing. So I can go through all these different spellings. I can look at the different grammar that's available. Obviously, that's not real grammar, but it's going to pick that. So this is the title of Castaways Who Are Here for a Long, Long Time. So should have a comma in there, things like that. So the editor is great just to go through and check out like a copyright editor that what you're doing. Under the review item here is something that I use a lot when I'm proofreading stuff, and that's read aloud. I love this feature because it allows me to hear, and I can play it like a fairly fast space, but allows me to sit there and focus on what I'm seeing and listen to it. Because sometimes you get to that point where you've been working on a document for so long and so much, you kind of lose touch with it. In your head, you're kind of filling in the blanks sometimes, like the and things like that. So you don't catch those things. Or you're in your head, you've put in a word that's not on paper, but in your head, every time you look at it, you see the word, even though it's not there. So I quite often will use the read aloud function, highlight a paragraph or whatever, have it read aloud. I do that on Google. I do that on my my mobile device as well. Really, really nice way of going through and making sure that what you think you've written down is actually what's going to be read back if someone happens to read it. The other thing is translate document. And I think we've talked about this in the past, but there's a link here. I can translate a certain section. So if I wanted to, I could just highlight that section and translate it and pick my language as I come through. Come on, a little faster. There we go. I'm going to translate it to Dutch because I've never seen Dutch before. And there it is in Dutch. Or I can translate the whole document. This is really handy. I taught for an international school years ago, and one of the things is they had students coming in from all over the world, and the parents didn't always speak English. So they actually would translate the documents for each parent, depending on what their background was, or taught them how to take this English document and translate it. So this also allows you to communicate with people who basically, if English isn't their primary language, might be more comfortable with this. Again, just like any translation service, it's not an exact science, okay? So don't think that it's going to be art and literature that you should be using it with. Last tool that I just saw the other day is Resume Assistant. Again, it's under review. Resume Assistant works with LinkedIn, which is kind of interesting. Or sorry, LinkedIn. So LinkedIn Learning. And I can get started. I can add my role, what my industry is, and it's going to go through and build a resume with me. So for your students that are looking for stuff, because of course we are all very happy here at MacEwan, we would never think to look anywhere else. This would be a great tool for students. That's pretty much it. Anybody got any questions or comments? Okay, I'm just going to stop us for right there then.